I got one idea that I'm especially psyched out of my mind about. You know, it's one of those ideas where you're just like, yes!
Dave? Dave Flynn?
On the radio!
Hold on to your butts.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for pushing play and tuning in to Dave Flynn on the radio. This is Dave Flynn, host of the #1 blogcast in the Northwest. And we'll admit, reading is hard. So, for my dozens of listeners, I'm going to do it for you. We're not live, but we're going to do this all in one take. So get yourself ready, because today we're talking about dismissal. We're talking about avoidance. We're talking about all the things that are below us for one reason or the other. We like what we like. And much of that is based on what our parents and our neighbors and our friends like. And we just ride or die with those things until we are dead and in the dirt. Opening up to new things would mean taking down our defenses, and it would mean changing. And we humans, we don't like to change all that much. So we'll pull from The Devil Wears Prada, we'll pull from country music, a little Ed Sheeran, an old form of argument called the Bailey Mott that I am extremely guilty of over the years. For more information, as always, check in at winwithflynn.com. But without any further delay, let's jump into the show. Cerulean Blue and Country Music 2. I'm not much for high fashion, but The Devil Wears Prada helped me recognize one of my nastiest habits: dismissing things I don't understand. In the film's most famous scene, Miranda Priestly eviscerates her assistant, Andy Sachs. At first, it seems she's mocking Andy's frumpy outfit, but it's Andy's willful ignorance that really offends Miranda. Andy dismisses an entire industry, the craft, the creators, the culture, as if it's beneath her. And cruel as Miranda is, she's right.
Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually cerulean. And you're also blithely unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns. And then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it, who showed cerulean military jackets. I think we need a jacket here. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And then it filtered down through the department stores and then trickled on down into some tragic casual corner where you no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. However, that blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when, in fact, you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
As I write this, I'm wearing a blue button front sweater. I like it. It's comfy. And I got it at Costco. In the past, if someone tried to explain its fashion lineage to me, I'd roll my eyes just like Andy did. But those eyes are open now. Andy's dismissal is an attempt at sophistication. In reality, it's armor for her self-image. A journalism major from Northwestern, destined to cover serious topics. Andy has decided fashion doesn't make the cut. It's easier to dismiss something than admit you don't understand it. My country music problem. I like all kinds of music, I'd say, from rock to jazz to hip-hop. Then I'd pause for emphasis. But I hate country. Although, there's a funny thing about liking all kinds of music. If you really do, you'll realize they're all intermingled. There are only so many notes, only so many arrangements. Each genre bleeds into the next. Ed Sheeran was sued for copyright a few years ago, and his defense didn't require Johnny Cochran. He sat in court with his guitar and rattled off a dozen songs from different genres using the same chord progression. The jury watched him move from rock to pop to country without skipping a beat. The boundaries between genres are like lines on a map, drawn by marketers, not musicians. I knew this was true, but even still, I couldn't bring myself to wade into those muddy waters of the Chattahoochee. So what was it? What did I hate about country music? I'm ashamed to admit it. It wasn't the sound. It was the source. Somewhere along the way, I decided country music was Southern, redneck, uneducated, unsophisticated, and it could even be Republican. I was no truck-driving redneck Republican. But what happens when your rock and roll love takes you to the band? You'll hear The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down and wonder what genre it belongs to. You'll hear Tom Petty's Down South and wonder the same thing. The Eagles, the Allman Brothers, Creedence, shoot, don't get me started on the Grateful Dead. Like Andy with fashion, I thought country was beneath me, so I dismissed an entire musical tradition. Engaging with it might have complicated my identity. I blame Chris Stapleton. I didn't realize my problem wasn't with country music, but with my preconceived notions of country music. Eventually, I got a wake-up call, and that wake-up call came in the form of starting over. That's right. I blame Chris Stapleton for my awakening. Like Cerulean Blue, he was undeniable. And he was just one part of a whole cast of country characters. I'd been too busy feeling superior to notice Billy Strings was doing with bluegrass what Led Zeppelin did with the blues, making it awesome. And with Chris and Billy leading the way, I started listening, and eventually something came across the speakers that stopped me in my tracks. A new voice, but a familiar tune.
We want likes all our pretty songs, likes to sing along, likes to shoot his gun. Don't know what it means.
I knew those words, every one of them, but not like this. The song I grew up with had been stripped down and rebuilt. What was once raw and raging was now slow and aching, almost tender. It was in bloom, but it was reimagined. Sturgill Simpson plays country, bluegrass, psychedelic rock, and apparently he's got a thing for grunge. He lived in the Pacific Northwest in the 90s, influenced by the same bands I grew up with. He even got super depressed for a while and started using drugs, just like my heroes. That was my Nirvana moment. In bloom was Kurt Cobain, biting his thumb at the fans who jumped on the bandwagon but had no clue where it was going. Simpson didn't dilute that meaning. He deepened it. In truth, the country artist has more in common with Cobain than he does with Rascal Flatts. Genre be damned. And that was the second crack in my armor. Simpson explained to Rolling Stone Country, when I was 13 and Nevermind dropped, it was like a bomb went off in my bedroom. Same. I hadn't been rejecting a sound. I'd been rejecting a caricature of that sound. If Nirvana could live inside country, then maybe country was closer to my kind of music than I thought. Dismissal as a defense. It's more common than you think. I'm not that into sports. I just prefer takeout to cooking. I get along with cats better. On the surface, these sound like simple preferences, but often they're using the Bailey and the Mott, a medieval strategy of defense applied to modern arguments. Imagine a castle. The Bailey is the open field around it, exposed and vulnerable. That's the big sweeping claim we make from a distance. Country music sucks. The Mott is the fortified tower in the center, protected by thick walls. When challenged, we retreat here. Well, it's just my opinion, but I just don't enjoy country music. The strategy works because we can venture bold claims but always have a safe retreat when pressed. When we say, I don't like X, what we often mean is, I don't understand X. It's easier to dismiss something than to step up and admit ignorance. That's why Andy is shaken after Miranda's Cerulean monologue. Deep down, she knows her dismissal was a dodge. NASCAR, Wranglers, boots, buckles, and pickup trucks, anything that felt too country to me, it got written off. While head-banging metalheads and pant-sagging hip-hop got a pass. I was up in my Mott, reluctant to change. All that emotional labor just to protect an outdated version of myself, a kid that didn't vibe with Garth Brooks. Every art has ridiculous elements, but we only see them in the ones that threaten our identity. And for what it's worth, Simpson never hid behind the fortified mott of country music. In 2015, while playing Roy Orbison's Crying, he noticed a fight in the audience. How in the F could you guys possibly be thinking about fighting when we're singing this song? He later said, I can't wait till all these flannel shirt, bearded mothers figure out I ain't like them. Like Cobain, Simpson wouldn't pander to the fans who fundamentally misunderstood him. They were on the bandwagon with no clue where it was going. Dip your toe. There's a difference between informed criticism and dismissive ignorance. Cobain was famously critical of other grunge bands, but his criticism came from deep knowledge and a desire to push the genre forward. That's criticism that elevates. When you hear some cliché rhymes with a dash of country twang over some trap beats, well, that criticism is warranted. What Andy was doing, and what I was doing with country music, wasn't criticism. It was protection, dismissal without understanding. The creators, designers, musicians, innovators, they aren't playing that game. They're too busy making things. Artists are often the most accepting people you'll meet. It's consumers who build hierarchies of dismissal, categorizing, ranking, because engaging requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is terrifying. It's safer to be the kid in the back of the bus rolling your eyes, up in your mott. Social commentary has its place, but it's often acting as a shield, keeping us from deeper engagement with the things that we don't understand. We become Andy, wearing our frumpy sweater, like badges that say, I've got better things to think about. But the moment you stop dismissing is the moment you start learning. My country music revelation didn't just give me a new genre to enjoy, it made me question other things I'd written off. What else was I missing because I was busy protecting my image? And you don't have to move to Alabama to see the truth. You can just dip your toe in. Spend a night at an SEC tailgate. Hear some Hank Jr. on the speakers. Just let go. And see if you don't wake up with just a hint of that southern drawl in the morning. Culture pulls you in if you let it. And you should let it. Being seen clearly when you dislike the view, that can sting. But maybe that sting is exactly what we need. Pushing us from dismissing the Cerulean to understanding why it matters. Even if you bought it at Costco. There we have it. That's the pod. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please share it with a friend. Give it a thumbs up. And if you've got a few extra seconds, give it a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you are listening. The engagement will make you feel so good, and it'll help other people find the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
All right, there you go, America. I love you. I'm proud of you. I mean it. We gotta go. This is great.